West Country Hauntings by Peter Underwood. Branscombe, near Seaton, Devon. Bovey House, an historic Elizabethan manor, originally belonged to the Abbey of Sherborne. And at the back of the house there is still a raised monk walk which has peace and serenity all of its own. Taken by the crown in 1539, following the dissolution of monasteries, this is a mellow old house once belonged to Catherine Parr. It had been presented to her by King Henry VIII in 1542 as a part of her dowry. Until fairly recently, it was a hotel. The Charles Room, with its magnificent coffered ceilings, is reputed to have been occupied by King Charles II. In the centre of this unique ceiling there is a large oak tree in relief, and through the branches a man's face can be clearly discerned, surrounded by small figures depicting Cromwellian troops, the whole representing Boscobel Wood, where Prince Charles, later King Charles II, hid in an oak tree during his flight to France after his defeat at the Battle of Worcestershire. During the course of his escape through Staffordshire, Worcestershire, Warwickshire and Somerset to Charlemouth and Dorset, he was reputedly sheltered by the Bovey house. In this room, in the 1980s, a visitor thought, just for a second, that she had glimpsed the shape of a cavalier, standing with one hand on a doorknob. She thought it must have been her imagination, and although it did frighten her, and a cavalier could well have been there, seeking to lay the fleeing Charles. Another legendary story, handed down for centuries, tells of a lady who resides here, dressed in black and was heavily veiled. She was accompanied by a priest, and she then went away. Could she have been the tragic Henrietta Maria, Queen of England and a wife of Charles I? She never recovered from his death and retired to France. She was a daughter of Henry IV of France, where she died in 1669. Bovey House has many lovely rooms, amongst them an apartment tastefully furnished in blue, which is reputedly haunted by a tall headless lady dressed in blue. She is said she was seen by Duncan Pearce, whose sister Frances recorded the event in her diary. A copy of the appropriate part of the journal is preserved at Bovey House. Frances Pearce seemed to have written in a diary around 1870. Later, the same figure was seen by one of the family servants, who was so terrified that he nearly broke his neck in a hurry to get down the stairs. And later, owner, a nonsense army captain, saw the ghost and promptly packed his belongings and left. The same room in which the mysterious blue lady appears has occasionally become inexplicably impregnated with the scent of lavender, and this perfume smell has been reported by several people through the years. When I was at Bovey House in 1986, I thought the haunted room had a distinct atmosphere, a stillness not apparent elsewhere in this interesting and quiet house. It was something I noticed when I entered the room for the first time, and subsequently at various times throughout the several days and nights. I had always had the same feeling, almost as though someone was about to appear, or as though someone was there, but I couldn't see him. And once at 4:30 a.m, as I entered the room, I noticed a faint but distinct odour of lavender. I called my wife, and she noticed it too. There is, as George Pullman says in the The Book of the Acts in 1875, Something unusual striking in this ancient mansion, grey with years. The Book of the Axe incidentally contains a century-old print of the Bovey house. In her diary, Frances Pierce explains that it was a bright and sunny morning when her brother Duncan stopped suddenly on his way down to breakfast. And wondering what had happened, Frances and her sister found him wearing a most puzzled expression. He explained on them that passing the door of the bedroom, which happened to be open, his eyes had caught on a wonderful gleam of blue, and he saw, standing before the mirror of the dressing table, which was immediately opposite the door, a figure which was the height he thought of his tallest sister. I wondered where you got that nice blue brocade, he explained, but you didn't seem to have a head that I could see, and no sooner did I stop than you quickly moved round to the other side of the room, and as I followed, quite disappear. What the dickens was it? Duncan, his sister adds, was the most particular creature she had ever known, and he was absolutely healthy and cheerful, and he said that he never had a dream in his life, waking or sleeping. Later, the Pierce groom, who slept in the house, came tearing down from the top of the story where the servants' room were, with his face deathly white, and fell almost faint onto a chair. As soon as he could speak, he cried out that he had seen a ghost. At first, like Duncan, he thought it was Miss Frances, because of his height, and she rustled past in the dim light wearing a rich silk gown. Then he saw the figure had no head. Dear old Bovey house, writes Frances Pierce. What a joy it held! The wide, low building of grey stone, dark ivory cling around the stone, mullioned windows, whose leaded panels blink in the wintry sunshine. Bovey is a lovely place, and it possesses many intriguing aspects. A recess or chambers 10 feet square, 30 feet down deep. Well, there's similar hiding place or priest holes in one of the chimneys, and an old treadmill type of wheel in a perfect condition, a water tank dated to 1674, a fine rainwater head at the front of the house bearing the date the house was completed, 1592, an intimate and charming line-fold panelled dining room, a spacious drawing room, originally the medieval hall, which had fine paneling and beautiful decorated Adam ceilings. All this apart from the ghosts.